The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday. And put your mic on, CJ. We can
Yeah, well, I was more concerned with the fact that we are not going out live over the television station.
Oh, wow.
So I had to call upstairs, and hopefully they correct this problem.
Okay, we're not going live. So when you see this on tape, you'll know why. Okay. So.
Well, I'm hoping they'll switch us over shortly. I did call upstairs. So they'll miss the first few minutes, but as you know, we do rebroadcast, and at the end of the show, I'll remind people, there we are. We are now live on the air.
We are live.
You only missed a couple of minutes, people, of us complaining about not being live on the air, so now we are live. But the show will replay at 5 p.m.
So a belated welcome, and you know who we are, so we won't
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm kind of lost.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost, too. So it's a Monday, and we've got a whole bunch of things here. So
it's amazing that no matter how much we get out there, more of it comes out of the woodwork, and it's truly sad. I don't know what to do anymore. But the weekend flush went out as usual, and surprisingly enough, this one gendered a lot of upset statements by people who read it. And we have to correct something. It's a 42-hour-a-week schedule, not a 44-hour-a-week schedule like I made the mistake on. So we're going to correct that typo right here, as we always do. When we make a mistake here, we correct it and we admit to it. So the fire department actually works basically a 42-hour-a-week schedule.
Yeah, it's an average. It's an average 42 over a cycle. Yeah,
right, over a cycle. So, I'm sorry for misrepresenting that. It wasn't intentional. But, again, I think that the point of that article was that a firefighter is going out there saying that the mayor is going to unilaterally, or I should say a specific candidate is going to unilaterally change the working hours for the fire department. I mean, I don't know if that's could even be valid, as I said in the weekend flush.
You can't. It's a
bargaining issue.
It's a negotiated. It's part of the collective bargaining agreement. It can't be changed unilaterally. They'd be subject to an unfair labor practice and impact bargaining. They'd be forced to the table to do that. They can't just. They can try. Obviously, we've had the city try to do things before, but that's not going to happen with anybody, with any mayor with a reasonable, expectation of trying to worry about the taxpayers' money. The last thing you want to do is have a repetition of what happened with DPW and have a protracted unfair labor practice, go back to the bargaining table, all of which only wastes money. Because the fact is, look, it took many, many years to get the schedule they work on now, and it was actually once voted down by the membership, and then the membership decided to go to this schedule, and it was negotiated as part of the collective bargaining process. And it has to be, if there's any schedule change, whether they want it or the city wants it, still has to be negotiated. So it's part of a collective bargaining agreement. So I don't even know. It's kind of, it's kind of scary when people who are in the bargaining unit don't understand that it's part of their contract. You just can't. It would be a much more difficult place to deal with if you could just why have a contract if you can just change anything? I mean, so it wouldn't be a good idea. So
well, and the thing that bothers me is, and we always know, during an election cycle, things get dirty. There's a lot of muck raking and lies, but when you have people that are supposed to exhibit honesty and trust to the community, and they don't understand what's happening, how can you put your own credibility into jeopardy? And again, maybe it's not an issue of credibility. Maybe this gentleman or woman was just uninformed.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the key. The key is we you know, we're talking about it, but realistically, you don't know what context. And it's
exactly.
You know, take it from somebody who was taken out of context more than once.
So have I.
Yeah, and so we don't know. It could have been framed, you know, and I don't like to make, you know, assumptions or try to make guesses, but I mean, that could have been framed as like, oh, I heard that if this candidate becomes mayor, she's going to change it. Maybe that was their interpretation of saying, since they're probably obviously not part of the leadership and they don't you know, they may not, you know, really understand the collective bargaining process. All they do is get paid and make sure they get what they're supposed to get.
Yeah, exactly.
But it may have been like, oh, she's gonna change, and he may have meant she's going to attempt to change, or he's going to attempt to change. And like I said, it could just be, as you said, that's one of the problems with politics. It's a campaign season. A lot of half truths are going to be thrown around. You know, there's going to be all kinds of allegations, or if this one becomes mayor, it's going to be like 1938 Munich or something like that. You know, so I mean, it's all part of the process, and it's all part of the game. So, I mean, it is, you know, you know, the reality is that statement, in or out of context, it's really not
it's
relevant.
Inaccurate. It's inaccurate.
It's inaccurate. Nobody can unilaterally do that, and I don't think. You know, well, I can't say, but I mean, I don't think any mayor, regardless of who it is, would hold up an entire collective bargaining agreement as to on a work schedule. I mean, it would be not smart bargaining to tie up a contract over that, because the reality is they went from a 42-hour average work week to a 42-hour average work week with just the change in how those hours are structured within that cycle. So realistically, it's not even a situation where they're trying to negotiate a benefit like they did in Providence, where they upped their hours. They went up to a 48-hour work week schedule. And so they were adding hours to their.
Right.
So that was obviously a major issue, and they did it unilaterally, and it was all over the news. But I mean, to hold up a contract over a working schedule would be ridiculous. If the union wanted to keep it, I'm sure the union would make it, you know, would say we're not going to change it. And anybody because look, if you work 42 hours, you work 42 hours. So.
Well, you know, it's just, again, I want our viewers and our voters to know, don't believe everything you hear. Go back and check with the candidates that the allegations are made against. If they're made against the mayor, go check with the mayor. If they're made against Linda, go check with Linda. If they're made against Ron Cabral, go check with Ron Cabral. Whoever they married against, if they're made against Rich Cabesters, go check with them. Find out what their position is. Yeah. Know what the position of your candidates are before you cast that ballot for them. That is the important thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something we can't get away from enough.
And we always say that on our show, even when we say, we normally have proof, and we'll hold it up and we'll tell you where it's come, if we're making. If it's not an opinion, if we're stating something as fact or news, and we normally tell you what the source is, and say this is, you know, we got this from the New York Post, or the Boston Globe, or whatever, or the Herald News.
Uncredible news services.
yeah, USA Today. But but even then, we tell you go out and research, because that's what we do. We read a story, we read something, and even though it's there, still try to get a second or third confirmation on it. And we tell you to do that with candidates. Never believe anything you read without trying to confirm it, and especially about a candidate. Give every candidate, at least a consideration to not just take everything from, because look, it's an election. They're going to try to get your vote, and if they think that can press one of your buttons, but at least give the other candidate, if you're considering that candidate, And even if you're not, you want to see the accuracy of the people that are making those statements. Check it.
Exactly.
As CJ said, ask them if it's something that a position that Richard Cabacera said, or Linda Pereira, or anybody that's a mayoral candidate, or the mayor, the sitting mayor, the incumbent. Check. You know, I mean, find out. See if, you know, reach out to someone, go to their website, if you can't get that, call somebody in their campaign and ask them for a clarification.
Exactly.
You know, that's the only way you can be sure.
Exactly. Well, Pizzagate is still out there.
Yeah, well.
But, you know, it actually is one worse than we thought. Because not only did they disrupt the city council meeting, they disrupted the Conservation Committee meeting. And they said, in the middle of the meeting, we want to go on record saying we did not order this pizza. And Bill Kenny said, well, where's my Cherie sandwich? So,
yeah, well, you know, and I know there was an article in the Herald News, as to quoting the source, and talked about a higher level of decorum. Well, you know, Will can have his opinion, but I've always said I am a big fan of the House of Commons.
so am I.
I think that's, you know, that's good. And obviously the House of Commons allows a lot of banter and stuff, but they still get something done. And once in a while, a little levity is required, especially in this city when we see what's going on. And you know something? Sometimes it actually, at least in my opinion, and it's only an opinion, obviously, I think sometimes that can lower the level of acrimony in the room. Somebody comes in and makes granted it was kind of ridiculous. It was stupid, but you know something? Everybody kind of got a chuckle out of it.
That's right.
And it kind of broke a lot of tension. And I'll tell you, some of these council meetings have become, you know, they've been on the verge of exploding, and we've seen it lately. And realistically, you know, a little, sometimes poking a little fun or making a little joke, sometimes kind of, you know, lightens the atmosphere in the room.
And it goes miles.
Because people, you know, when people get tense, sometimes, you know, and. Okay, so now they want to prosecute the individual and throw him in jail. You know, God forbid, because if you did that in North Korea, that's exactly what they do to you.
Exactly.
Probably execute you.
Where I guess we are becoming a fascist state. So the primary elections are coming up, and right now it looks like there'll only be a mayoral primary. Candidates have until, or potential candidates have until Friday to take out their papers, and then the following week, the 25th, to return them, which would be next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So, right now you have running for mayor Jazel Correa, Richard Branco, who has withdrawn. Let's make that clear. He has emphatically stated he's withdrawn his nomination. Richard Cabaceres, Louis Cabral Jr., Ron Cabral, Patrick Higgins, who has also withdrawn his nomination papers. Linda Pereira and Emmanuel Pestana, who I have no information about whatsoever. On the city council side, we have for incumbent Sean Kadim, Joe Camara, Pamela Liberté LeBeau, Stephen Long, and Ray Mitchell and Cliff Ponte. Steve Camara has yet to take papers out to run for re-election. Others are Emmanuel Barros, Ron Cabral, David Cowan Jr., Russell Desbeans, Michelle Dion, Mario Dorrego, Daniel Dupre, Brad Kilby, Trot Joseph Lee, Leo Pelletier, Jeffrey Sylvia, Jason Springer, Mark Tibitot, Ian Tompkins, and Derek Viveris. So there's your city council lineup so far. On the school committee side, you have Mark Costa, Paul Coogan, and Joe Martins, who are running. We already knew that Melissa Panchley, Ed Costa, and Gabe Andrade were not going to run, so that leaves 3 vacant seats to be filled by either Amy Blanchett, Sean Connell, again David Cowan, Joshua Hetzler, Tom Corey, Mariam Morales, Jeffrey Sarnecki, Crystal Stone, or Jessica Wong. You know, we have some people running in multiple races, and I'm not going to fault them for it. You know, if they want to run for all 3, knock yourself out. But historically, those candidates don't even place in an election. They don't even come in anywhere. So it's going to be very interesting. The primary is scheduled for September 12th, and we are scheduling the infamous, the amazing, the wonderful, the People's Debate. And as our viewers know, you can send your questions to the candidates for mayor at debate@scstonline.com. Again, that's debate@scstonline.com. And within the next week, we will have the date set up, and we'll let you know where and when, because this is going to happen this year, because it's going to be contentious.
I would say, good shot of that.
Definitely a good shot of that. So the former church that was eyed as a mental health center is no longer being eyed as a mental health center. VinFen, which is the company that wants to provide this crisis center, this stabilization center, is still interested in working with the mayor and still working with the city to create this program. And, you know, Carlos Caesar, who's the president of the Flint Neighborhood Association, said they were not for or against this program. They didn't know anything about it. But this is the problem with this administration. They don't go to the people. Mr. Mayor, I want to call you to part of the first, Article 5. I want you to read it. I want you to study it. There will be a test, because you must remember that your authority comes from me, from Chip, from the voters, from the citizens of this city. And we have a right to know what you're doing. And your attitude, and I'm going to quote you, I'm the mayor, you have no need to know, is piss poor.
No, it's beyond that. It's actually technically, it flies in the face of the state constitution, which
exactly.
says they're at all times answerable to the people.
Exactly.
And of course the United States Constitution, which basically says this is a government by the people. So, but we have that, and what really disturbs me, as I said, is the process. It's not the first process. We saw the kind of, let's say, being kind, the questionable bid process with the King Philip Mill, and you touched upon that in the weekend flush, I know that.
I did.
Weekend flush. The questionable process in the bidding. We've also seen this particular thing where we basically had the emails where they were exchanging emails about this, and in this Herald News article by Joe Good, it says very clearly that Representative Carol Fiola said that the neighborhood association should be notified, and they weren't. And it seems that nobody who's affected by anything is informed in this community, and deals are always made, you know, without the public having any input. And that's the road to disaster in this city, for the city, and for staying elected. The purple bags got rammed down the people's throat, and we all know what happened to the individual who rammed the purple bags down people's throats without including them in the process. Which, ironically, I think if that was framed correctly, it might have been okay. The people might not have had but people don't like to get things rammed down their throat. They don't like to get a sneak attack. You know, this isn't Pearl Harbor. We don't like to wake up one day and have a crisis center next door. And of course, that's a multi property use zoning. So we could end up one day and have a crisis center, and then wake up the next day and they're starting construction on market rate housing, because some of it is classified as residential.
Or a detox center.
Or a detox center, or who knows what it's going to be.
Exactly.
And you know, this is the whole problem with these things, that there's never any public input. There's not even, the public isn't even informed until everything is in the final stages, and it is not a government for the people and by the people, but it is also has absolutely no transparency,
right,
which I believe Mayor Carrere made it very clear during his campaign that he was going to have an extremely transparent government.
Not only during his campaign, but even after his election, he says, "Oh, we're always trying to be very transparent." And I mean, if that's transparent, I'm telling you right now, don't run a ship through it, because you're gonna hit a reef.
And from what I see out in the community, CJ, I think that the community has said, we're tired of expanding all these services. We will take care of what we have and our people, but Fall River should not be the place where everybody in the Commonwealth sends all their problems.
Right.
Be they, be they psychiatric problems or opioid addiction problems or alcohol problems or whatever. This should not be the place where once someone is deemed, you can't save this person, let's ship them to Fall River and, they'll probably stay there. And I think that and I know the people in the North End are not happy with what's going on down there. People at the Flint are not, like you said, they didn't even have a chance to weigh in on this center. But the fact is, I'm not really sure they would have been in favor of it. I mean, I think we've done more than our fair share.
Definitely.
I think we've done more than our fair share. We did it with the Housing Authority, and look what happened with that. Now we're doing it with this, and I don't believe the people of Fall River are going to support this kind of action.
You can't change this community if you keep bringing in the problems.
Yep.
If you're going to keep bringing problems in, you're not going to solve the issues. You're just going to create more.
That's
and
right.
Speaking about more issues, hey, Fall River did it again. We're top of the line for number of overdoses in Fall River. Okay? The highest amount of drug overdoses this year with 83 of them in June. Unbelievable. All those thousands, millions of dollars spent. Oh, wait, that was spent on the Ritz-Carlton and the Escalade, right?
True. But that's okay. Remember, there's actually no cap on how much they can spend.
That's right.
That was the justification
That's
used.
right. And, they had, accordingly, they say they had only 6 deaths in June. Okay?
And how many doses of Narcan did it keep?
Exactly.
Did it take to keep it down?
Well, and
down
remember,
at
you got to administer Narcan to all the overdose victims of 83, and not victims. All the overdose individuals, people who have overdosed, because they're not victims. Okay? These tie up our police and fire all the time, and they're wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars to save somebody who doesn't want to be saved. If they wanted to be saved, they wouldn't be overdosing on these drugs. Let's just look at the numbers. So far this year, 379 total overdoses in Fall River. There were 422 overdoses through the first 6 months of 2016. Last year, there's 379, so we're under a little bit. Overdose fatalities, there are 28 so far. There were 41 deaths in the first month of 2016. So the Narcan helped a little bit there, maybe. Breakdown of drug overdoses in June. 49% heroin, 24% pills, 21% unknown, and 6% cocaine.
Well, let me see, I'd like to see a stat on how many of those people were frequent flyers.
Of course, because that's exactly what it is.
And that's one, obviously, that's one of the problems. The problem is that, as we've said numerous times on the show, this is not a solution. It's almost an enablement for them to continue on that.
Right.
And it's, we're not going to cure this problem by trying to label it as a disease and things. But I don't know exactly, because we got so many things here. But I've got to hit Berkley. Congratulations to the Berkley.
I was just going to go there.
Congratulations to the voters of Berkley for rejecting a override. Because, you know something? Our friends out there in the country, they watch their pocketbooks. I've seen Westport town meetings that have been they make the city council look like a walk in the park.
Exactly.
And people are screaming, but you know something? I applaud them because they're participating in their government. They stand up and be heard. No greater thing. You know something? You know what this says? This is not an override. This is a message. Spend the money wisely. We are not going to continue to give you money to waste.
And that's what they want us to do in November.
That's all they ever do. As like I said, my pal Milton Friedman, You give them the Sahara Desert, they'll run out of sand in 5 years. Government has to learn how to stay on budget just like you and I have to do.
God
because
forbid.
guess what? We know that the state is on the verge of passing a budget. And again, we had a deficit from last year. But just remember one thing, as the article about Rhode Island said too, the legislators still got a pay raise.
That's right.
So when you've got, when you run out of money, don't you, all you have to do, you go to your boss and say, I need a pay raise, and then you take the money from your neighbors, because that's what government does. They pick our pockets, they steal our wallets, and there's never any accountability in government, and they continue to spend our money on things that we don't want. We've got crappy streets, we've got crime, we've got problems. We are looked down upon by not only the United States, but now the UK classified us as the 38th worst city in the United States to live in. So anybody that tries to give you this delusion, oh, these people are, well, obviously, they say the whole world, the whole world must be wrong. The entire country must be wrong. Obviously, when they look at Fall River, they look at what is going on. And it was ironic because I was looking at a commercial yesterday for buying houses, and they were talking about how you can get on there and Google, and it tells you all about the crime rates and things like that. So when they try to market Fall River, it's like, you think anybody's going to come here? You don't think those articles from USA Today are going to pop up from the UK, and people are going to go, I don't want to go here. They're in the top 50 in the country in crime and in drug addiction. And it's like,
hey, why not? Come on.
Why not try to fix the issue? So,
I want my kids to grow up around dirty heroin needles.
Kudos to Berkley.
Definitely.
And when we get the override, and theirs was only $950,000, by the way, less than $1 million and a shot at. Of course, they have a much smaller budget. But remember, we are going to be asked to get a $122 million, is it?
I think it's 123.
123. I apologize. I was a little low. I thought maybe we were going to get a blue light special.
No.
Only 100.
Yeah, right.
Only 102.20. Only $123 million override.
And here's the thing, and this is what the people don't understand. The renters have a right to vote on this too. But remember something, renters. It's going to raise the property taxes on your landlord's property. He's not paying it out of his pocket, because I'm telling you now, I'm not paying it out of mine. So when that excess tax comes on my bill, you, the tenant, are going to pay for it. Like it or not, that's the nature of business. So when you turn around and say yes to that override, remember, you said, I'm going to pay more money in rent. Can you afford it? Just like when you say yes to the new charter. Are you going to be able to afford that? I don't think so. Real quickly, the powerboat races are coming back to Fall River. And again, they're coming the same weekend that the Great Feast of the Holy Ghost is coming. Now, you're really putting a tax on resources in the city, police, fire, EMS, when you have both these events running simultaneously. Who is the moron in city government who doesn't take this into consideration? Why? Because Mike Lund wants to give us fireworks before the boat race? Really? Oh, and we're going to make the boat race go by the Great Feast. Where are they going to do? Go down Broadway?
They're going to make it a canal. This is going to be like Venice.
Yeah, we're going to make canals.
Maybe that can be part of streetscapes.
Yeah, but that's it. So think about this, people, before you go out and you start paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for all of these resources. Granted, they're great events, but think about how much you're paying for them. Just $30,000 alone last year on police for the Great Feast that they never paid. Well, with
Stay
that...
angry, everybody. We will see you on Hump Day.
Stay angry, because I know I am.